The alarm bells rang across Nexus Prime like a death song. Admiral Kextar had never heard them before. In his 40 years of service to the Galactic Federation, the emergency alert system had only been tested once each year. Now it screamed through the corridors of the massive space station, making his 6 arms shake with fear. "What is happening?" he asked his aide, a young Zephyrian named Velson who looked just as confused as everyone else. "Sir, long-range sensors picked up something coming from the Sol system," Velson said, his voice trembling. "The computer says, it's a ship, but what?" Kextar snapped, his blue skin turning darker with stress. "Sir, it's huge. And it's covered in weapons." Kextar felt his 3 hearts skip a beat. The Sol system was marked as a restricted zone in Federation files. 300 years ago, they had made first contact with the species there. The meeting had gone badly. Very badly. The Federation had decided to leave the humans alone and wait for them to become more civilized. Now something was coming from Earth, and it looked like war itself. Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, watching the stars bend and twist as they dropped out of hyperspace. After 3 long years of travel, they had finally reached the edge of known space. Behind them lay Earth and everything they had ever known. Ahead waited the unknown. "Hyperspace drive is offline, Captain," reported Lieutenant Tom Wilson from his station. "We're running on regular engines now." Lisa nodded, her green eyes fixed on the main screen. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but everyone on the ship knew she was tougher than steel. She had fought in the Mars Rebellion, survived the Jupiter Colony Wars, and earned her rank through blood and sacrifice. "Any sign of alien ships?" she asked. Commander Jake Phillips, her second-in-command, checked his instruments. Jake was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. "Nothing yet, Captain, but I'm picking up lots of radio signals. They know we're here." Dr. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her science station. She was younger than the others, with dark hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from 12 different star systems. They're all sending signals to each other." "What kind of signals?" Lisa asked. "Emergency broadcasts," Amy said, her voice worried. "I think we scared them." Lisa almost smiled. The Sovereign was designed to scare people. It was 2 miles long and covered in armor thick enough to stop nuclear bombs. Every inch of its dark hull was covered with weapons. Railguns, missile tubes, laser cannons, and things that didn't have names yet. It looked like what it was. A ship built for war. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander Steve Brooks from the security station. Steve was an ex-Marine with muscles like iron and eyes like ice. "I'm detecting movement, multiple ships heading our way." "How many?" Lisa asked. "At least 50, maybe more," Steve said. "They're trying to surround us." On Nexus Prime, the Emergency Council was meeting for the first time in 200 years. Representatives from all 12 major species sat around a circular table, their different forms creating a strange rainbow of alien life. There were the tall, thin Altarians with their silver skin, the 4-armed Centaurians with their rock-like hide, the floating ethereals who looked like living clouds, and many others. But they all shared one thing. They were all afraid. "The readings don't make sense," said Counselor Thane, an Altarian scientist. "This ship is primitive compared to our technology, but something about it is terrifying our computers." "What do you mean?" asked Counselor Zara, a Centaurian diplomat. "Our ships are built for peace," Thane explained. "They have shields, but not very strong ones. They have weapons, but they're designed to disable, not destroy. This human ship, it's built to kill everything it sees." Admiral Kextar entered the council chamber, his blue uniform torn from running through the corridors. "Honored counselors, we need to make a decision quickly. The human ship is broadcasting on all frequencies." "What are they saying?" asked Counselor Mora, an ethereal whose voice sounded like wind chimes. "They want to talk," Kextar said. "They say they come in peace and want to establish trade relations." The council chamber fell silent. Then Counselor Zara laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "They come in peace? In a ship covered with enough weapons to destroy a planet?" Back on the Sovereign, Lisa was getting frustrated. They had been trying to make contact for 6 hours, but the aliens weren't responding to their messages. Instead, more and more alien ships kept appearing on their sensors. "Captain," Jake said, "we now have over 300 alien vessels within weapon range. They're not attacking, but they're definitely not welcoming us either." "Maybe they don't understand us," Amy suggested. "Our languages are completely different." "No," Lisa said, studying the tactical display. "They understand us just fine. Look, at their formation. They're trying to box us in without making it look like an attack." Steve Brooks checked his weapon systems one more time. "Captain, if they try anything, we can handle it. But there are a lot of them." Lisa nodded. She had expected this. Earth's leaders had warned her that first contact might not go smoothly. The human race had spent 300 years preparing for this moment. While the galaxy had enjoyed peace, humanity had perfected the art of war. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Captain," Tom replied. Lisa took a deep breath. "This is Captain Lisa Murphy of the Earthship Sovereign. We come seeking peaceful contact with the Galactic Federation. We wish to establish diplomatic relations and mutual trade agreements. Please respond." On Nexus Prime, the message was heard by everyone. The council members looked at each other with confusion and fear. "She sounds reasonable," Councillor Mora said quietly. "Hitler probably sounded reasonable too," Councillor Zara replied, "before he started killing people." Admiral Kekstar was studying the tactical reports. "Councillors, I must recommend caution. Our military analysts say this ship could destroy our entire fleet. Not easily, but it could be done." "How is that possible?" Thane asked. "Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than theirs." "Because," Kekstar said slowly, "they think differently than we do. Our ships are built to look impressive and keep peace. Their ship is built to win wars. There's a big difference. Truth was starting to sink in. For 10,000 years, the galaxy had known peace. War was something they read about in history books. Weapons were ceremonial. Conflicts were solved with words and trade agreements. But now something had arrived from the darkness between stars. Something that remembered how to fight. Something that had never stopped preparing for war. And it was asking politely to be their friend. The galaxy had never been more terrified. 3 days had passed since the human ship arrived, and the galaxy was going crazy. Every news channel in Federation space was talking about the dark vessel that hung at the edge of their territory like a storm cloud. Stock markets crashed. Some planets were building bunkers. Others were trying to negotiate surrender terms with a species they had never met. Captain Lisa Murphy was getting tired of waiting. The aliens had been sending the same message over and over. Maintain current position. Do not approach any Federation worlds. A diplomatic team is being prepared. "Captain," Commander Jake Phillips said, looking up from his station, "I'm detecting movement. Big movement." Lisa turned to face him. Jake had been her friend for 15 years, and she trusted his judgment more than anyone else's. "What kind of movement?" "Ships, Captain. Lots of them. Coming from every direction." Jake's fingers danced over his controls, bringing up the tactical display. "I count at least 500 vessels now, with more arriving every hour." Dr. Amy Rodriguez whistled softly. "That's the biggest fleet ever assembled in Federation history. I'm reading energy signatures from all 12 member species." "Are they planning to attack us?" asked Lieutenant Commander Steve Brooks. His hand was already hovering over the weapon controls. "I don't think so," Lisa said, studying the alien formations. "Look at how they're arranged. It's more like a wall than an attack formation. They're trying to contain us." What Lisa didn't know was that she was exactly right. On Nexus Prime, Admiral Kekstar was coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Representatives from every major species had contributed ships to what they were calling the Containment Fleet. "Status report," Kekstar demanded as he entered the command center. "Sir, we now have over 600 ships in position," reported Captain Vexnall, a Tenthari officer with 4 eyes and green skin. The human vessel hasn't moved or powered up any additional weapons. Good, Kextar said, though he didn't feel good at all. What about the diplomatic mission? Still being prepared, sir. The council can't agree on who should make first contact. Nobody wants to get close to that thing. Kextar couldn't blame them. He had been studying the human ship for 3 days, and everything about it was wrong. Not wrong like broken, but wrong like a nightmare. Every line of its hull was designed for killing. Every weapon placement was perfect for maximum destruction. It was like looking at death itself, painted black and floating in space. Sir, Vexnall said quietly, our analysts have finished their report on human military capabilities. And, sir, you're not going to like it. Kexnall was right. The report made Kextar's blood run cold. According to their best scientists, the human ship was built using technologies that the Federation had abandoned thousands of years ago. Not because they couldn't build them, but because they were too dangerous. The humans had armor that could survive planet-killer weapons. They had shields that could absorb energy blasts that would vaporize most Federation ships. Their weapons were designed not just to disable enemies, but to completely destroy them. But worst of all, the ship showed signs of battle damage. Old scars, repaired armor sections, replaced weapon mounts. This wasn't a showpiece or a ceremonial vessel. This was a warship that had seen real combat. How many wars have they fought? Kextar whispered to himself. The answer would have terrified him even more. In the 300 years since first contact, humanity had fought 17 major wars, countless smaller conflicts, and had never stopped preparing for the day they would return to the stars. On the Sovereign, Lisa was having her own problems. Her crew was getting restless. They had trained for this mission for years, and now they were just sitting in space while aliens surrounded them. Captain, Amy said, I've been analyzing their communications. I think I'm starting to understand their language patterns. What are they saying? Lisa asked. They're scared, Captain, really scared. Their news broadcasts are calling us everything from death gods to the end of civilization. Some of their planets are evacuating their populations. Lisa felt a stab of guilt. They had come here seeking peace, but somehow they had become the monsters in alien nightmares. There's something else, Amy continued. I don't think they've had a real war in thousands of years. Their military tactics are all theoretical. Their weapons are designed for show, not for killing. Commander Phillips looked up from his station. That explains their ship formations. They're trying to intimidate us with numbers, but they don't know how to actually fight. Lieutenant Commander Brooks laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. 1,000 ships that can't fight against one ship that can. This could get ugly fast. Lisa was about to respond when alarms started ringing. Report. Captain, we have incoming ships, Phillips said. 3 vessels breaking away from the main fleet. They're heading straight for us. Battle stations? No, Captain. They're not powering weapons, but they're moving fast. On the lead alien. Ship Captain Vexnall was sweating. He had volunteered for this mission because someone had to make the first move. The Tenthari were known for their bravery, and he couldn't let his species look weak in front of the other Federation members. Distance to human vessel? He asked his navigator. 200,000 kilometers and closing, sir. Any response? From them? No, sir. They're just watching us. That made Vexnall even more nervous. A normal ship would be demanding to know their intentions or threatening to fire. The human ship just sat there like a sleeping dragon. On the Sovereign, Steve. Brooks was watching the approaching ships with professional interest. Captain, they're trying to look intimidating, but their formation is all wrong. If we wanted to, we could take out all 3 ships before they could return fire. We're not here to fight, Lisa reminded him. I know, Captain, but they don't know that. Amy was monitoring alien communications. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions between the 3 ships. They're arguing about something. Can you translate? Some of it. I think they're trying to decide whether to escort us somewhere or demand our surrender. Lisa had heard enough. She opened a communication channel. Approaching vessels. This is Captain Murphy of the Earthship Sovereign. Please state your intentions. Oni, the Tenthari ship. Vexnall nearly jumped out of his skin when the human voice came through their speakers. It was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its confidence. "This is Captain Vexnall of the Federation ship Bright Star," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "You are ordered to accompany us to Processing Station Gamma 7 for diplomatic evaluation." There was a long pause. Then the human voice came back, and this time there was something different in it. Something cold. "Captain Vexnall, we appreciate your concern, but we will not be going to any processing station. We are here on a peaceful mission and will not be treated as prisoners." Vexnall looked at his crew. They all looked as scared as he felt. We have orders." "Captain," the human voice interrupted, "I suggest you reconsider those orders." That's when it happened. The human ship's weapon systems came online. Every alarm on every Federation ship started screaming at once. Energy readings that had been background noise suddenly spiked to levels that broke their instruments. The dark hull of the Sovereign lit up with targeting systems, weapon ports, and energy discharges that painted space itself with death. But they didn't fire. "This is your only warning," Captain Murphy's voice said across all Federation frequencies. "We came here in peace, and we want to leave in peace. But we will not be threatened or imprisoned. Stand down your ships and allow us to speak with your leaders or face the consequences." The 3 Tenthari ships stopped dead in space. Across the Federation fleet, captains who had never seen real weapons powered up stared at their screens in horror. They were looking at enough firepower to destroy entire worlds, all aimed directly at them, and then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the light show ended. The Sovereign's weapons powered down, but the message was clear. The galaxy had forgotten how to make war, but humanity never had. Now they remembered why that was terrifying. The next morning brought something nobody expected. More human ships. Admiral Kextar was drinking his morning stimulant when the alarm started again. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center, his 6 arms flailing as he tried to keep his balance. "What now?" he shouted over the noise. "Sir, 5 more ships just dropped out of hyperspace," reported his aide Velsun. "They're human ships, and they're heading straight for our containment fleet." Kextar felt his 3 hearts stop beating for a moment. 5 ships, are they the same type as the first one? "No, sir, they're all different, and sir, they're bigger." On the bridge of the UES Sovereign, Captain Lisa Murphy was watching the arrival of Admiral Helen Carter's task force with mixed feelings. She was glad to have backup, but she knew this would make the situation much worse. "Captain, Commander," Jake Phillips said, "Admiral Carter is requesting permission to come aboard." "Permission granted," Lisa replied. "And Jake, make sure our guests see exactly who's coming to visit." Admiral Helen Carter was a legend in the Earth Space Navy. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and scars that told stories of a dozen different battles. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, rebels on Mars, and monsters in the dark spaces between planets. When she walked onto the Sovereign's bridge, even Lisa's hardened crew stood a little straighter. "Captain Murphy," Admiral Carter said with a slight smile, "looks like you've stirred up quite a hornet's nest." "Yes, ma'am," Lisa replied. "The aliens have assembled the biggest fleet in their history. They're scared of us." "Good," Carter said, coldly. "Fear is honest. It's better than the lies diplomats tell each other." Through the view screen, they could see the alien fleet scrambling to respond to the new arrivals. Carter's ships were spread out in a formation that looked casual but was actually perfect for combat. The UES Retribution, Carter's flagship, was 3 times larger than the Sovereign and looked like a mobile fortress. The other ships were smaller but just as deadly. The stealth ship, UES Ghost, the heavy cruiser UES Hammer, the missile destroyer UES Storm, and the support vessel UES Guardian. "Ma'am," Lisa said carefully, "what are your orders?" Admiral Carter walked to the main view screen and studied the alien formations. "Captain, these creatures have forgotten something important. They think peace comes from being weak. They think safety comes from running away from danger. They're wrong." "Ma'am, peace comes from being so strong that nobody wants to fight you," Carter continued. "Safety comes from making sure your enemies know exactly what will happen if they threaten you." It's time we reminded the galaxy of that lesson. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in complete panic. The arrival of more human ships had shattered what little calm they had managed to maintain. 6 human warships, Counselor Thane was saying, his silver skin pale with fear. Our analysts say each one could destroy a planet by itself. This is clearly an invasion force, declared Counselor Zara, her rock-like skin turning darker with anger. We should attack now before more arrive. Attack with what? Asked Counselor Mora, her cloud-like form flickering with distress. Our entire fleet couldn't stop one of their ships, and now there are 6. Admiral Kextar entered the council chamber, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Honored counselors, we've received another message from the humans. What do they want now? Zara demanded. They want to demonstrate something, Kextar said quietly. The human admiral says she wants to show us the difference between their military and ours. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Thane spoke up. What kind of demonstration? A war game, Kextar replied. She's challenging our entire fleet to a mock battle. No live weapons, just targeting systems and computer simulations. That's ridiculous, Zara said. We have over 800 ships, they have 6. That's what she's counting on, Kextar said grimly. Admiral Carter's voice echoed across every Federation ship in the fleet. Attention all vessels. This is Admiral Helen Carter of the Earth Defense Force. Your leaders have asked for a demonstration of human military capabilities. We are happy to oblige. On the Federation command ship, Admiral Kextar was trying to organize a defense that made sense. 800 ships against 6 should have been easy. But as he looked at the tactical display, he felt a growing sense of doom. Sir, Captain Vexnall reported, the human ships are moving. Kextar watched in horror as the human formation split apart. Instead of staying together for mutual support like any sensible fleet would do, they scattered in 6 different directions. It was either the stupidest thing he had ever seen or the most brilliant. On the UES Retribution, Admiral Carter was orchestrating a symphony of destruction. Ghost, take out their communication relays. Hammer, punch through their center formation. Storm, hit their flanks with everything you have. Guardian, provide electronic warfare support. Sovereign, you're with me. We're going for their command ship. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was monitoring Federation communications from the Sovereign. Admiral, they're trying to coordinate a response, but their commanders are arguing with each other. Some want to attack, others want to retreat, and most don't know what to do. That's what happens when you forget how to fight, Carter replied. Jake, show me their battle formation. Commander Phillips brought up the tactical display. The Federation fleet was arranged in a perfect sphere around where the human ships had been. It looked impressive, but it was completely wrong for actual combat. They're thinking like police, not soldiers, Carter observed. They want to surround and contain, not destroy and conquer. Steve, paint every ship in their fleet with targeting lasers. Lieutenant Commander Brooks smiled grimly and activated the Sovereign's targeting systems. Instantly, every Federation ship found itself locked onto by weapons that could vaporize them in seconds, but the humans weren't done yet. The UES Ghost, humanity's stealth ship, had disappeared from all sensors and reappeared behind the Federation's command vessel. The UES Hammer smashed through the center of their formation like a sledgehammer through glass, scattering ships in all directions. The UES Storm launched 1,000 simulated missiles that overwhelmed every defense system in the alien fleet. In less than 10 minutes, the largest military force in galactic history had been completely defeated by 6 human ships. Admiral Kextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. According to the computer, his entire fleet was dead. Every ship had been destroyed, multiple times over. The humans had moved through them like sharks through a school of fish. Sir, Vexnall said quietly, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral. Put it through, Kextar said, his voice barely a whisper. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She didn't look angry or proud. She looked tired and a little sad. Admiral Kextar, she said, I want you to understand something. We didn't come here to conquer you. We came here to join you, but we needed you to understand what we are. What are you? Kextar asked. We're what you used to be before you forgot, Carter replied. We're warriors, Admiral. We're the part of evolution that you left behind when you chose peace. And now, whether you like it or not, we're your guardians. The transmission ended, leaving the Federation fleet floating in space, surrounded by human ships that could have destroyed them all but chose not to. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy understood the difference between peace and weakness, and they weren't sure which one they preferred. 2 weeks after the demonstration, Captain Lisa Murphy found herself in the strangest place she had ever been. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime was huge, with ceilings that disappeared into darkness and walls covered in symbols from a dozen different worlds. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy sat around a circular table that could have held a small army, and they were all staring at her. Captain Murphy, said Counselor Thane, his silver skin gleaming under the chamber's lights, we have been discussing your proposal for the past 10 days. Lisa nodded, keeping her face calm, even though her heart was racing. Admiral Carter sat beside her, looking perfectly relaxed. Behind them stood Commander Phillips, Dr. Rodriguez, and Lieutenant Commander Brooks. The 5 humans looked tiny in the massive chamber, but somehow they commanded everyone's attention. We are still trying to understand, continued Counselor Mora, her cloud-like form shimmering with confusion. Why you want to help us instead of conquering us? Admiral Carter leaned forward slightly. Because conquest is wasteful, she said in her calm, steady voice. You have spent thousands of years building something beautiful here. Peace, prosperity, cooperation between different species. Why would we want to destroy that? But you could, said Counselor Zara bluntly. Your demonstration proved that. Yes, we could, Carter agreed. And that's exactly why we won't. True strength isn't about destroying everything you can. It's about protecting everything you love. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been studying the alien representatives for days, and she could see the internal struggle they were all fighting. These beings had built a civilization based on the idea that violence was primitive and unnecessary. Now they were faced with the possibility that they needed violent protectors to keep their peaceful world safe. There is something we must know, said Counselor Veltar, a tall, thin being with 4 arms and purple skin. In your history files, we found records of your wars. Humans fighting humans. Millions dead. Cities destroyed. How do we know you won't turn that violence on us? The chamber fell silent. This was the question Lisa had been dreading. How could they explain humanity's violent past without sounding like monsters? Commander Phillips spoke up for the first time. Counselor, may I tell you about my grandfather? The tall alien representatives looked confused, but Veltar nodded. My grandfather fought in something we called World War III, Jake said, his voice soft but clear. It was a terrible war. 50 million people died. My grandfather saw things that gave him nightmares for the rest of his life. The aliens listened with growing horror. But do you know what he did after the war? Jake continued. He became a teacher. He spent 40 years teaching children about the cost of violence. He made sure they understood that war should always be the last choice, never the first. Jake paused, looking at each alien representative in turn. That's what humans do, he said. We learn from our violence, we remember the cost, and we make sure that cost is never paid unless absolutely necessary. Counselor Thane leaned forward. But you still prepare for war. Your ships, your weapons. Because preparation prevents war, Admiral Carter said firmly. If everyone knows you can fight, most of the time you don't have to. Lisa decided it was time to make their final argument. She stood up, her small form somehow commanding attention in the huge chamber. Honored counselors, she said, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking if you can trust us. But the real question is, can you afford not to trust us? What do you mean? Asked Counselor Mora. Your galaxy is beautiful, Lisa said, walking slowly around the table. But it's not the only galaxy. There are others out there, and not all of them are peaceful. Someday something is going to come from the dark spaces between stars. Something hungry, something violent, something that won't care about your diplomacy or your trade agreements. The chamber was completely silent now. When that happens, Lisa continued, you'll need someone who remembers how to fight. Someone who never forgot that sometimes violence is the only language bullies understand. She stopped walking and faced the council directly. We're offering to be that someone. Not as your conquerors, but as your guardians. We'll patrol the edges of your space. We'll watch for threats. And if something comes that wants to destroy what you've built, we'll be there to stop it. Admiral Kextar, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke up. And what do you want in return? Admiral Carter smiled for the first time. Trade, knowledge, friendship, the chance to learn from species who chose a different path than we did. You want to learn from us? Counselor Zara sounded amazed. You've achieved something we never could, Carter said. Perfect peace between different species, cooperation without conquest. That's beautiful, and we want to understand it. Dr. Rodriguez nodded enthusiastically. Your medical technology could save millions of human lives. Your environmental sciences could help us repair damage from our old wars. Your philosophy could teach us better ways to solve problems without violence. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, who had been quiet until now, added, and in return, we teach you how to defend all of that, how to make sure nobody can ever take it away from you. The council members looked at each other, communicating in ways the humans couldn't understand. Finally, Counselor Thane spoke. We need time to consider this. The decision cannot be made quickly. We understand, Lisa said, but while you're deciding, we'll be patrolling your borders, because whether you accept our offer or not, we won't let anyone hurt what you've built here. 3 months later, Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign, watching a patrol of mixed human and alien ships conducting exercises near the galaxy's edge. The sight still amazed her. Sleek Altarian scouts flying alongside human destroyers, Centaurian science vessels sharing data with Earth research ships, Tenthari diplomats working with human marines to establish new protocols. Captain, Commander Phillips said, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through, Lisa said. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main screen, but she wasn't calling from her ship. She was in a conference room on Nexus, Prime surrounded by alien advisors and human officers working together. Lisa, Carter said, I have news. Long-range sensors have picked up something at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. Unknown ships moving in formation heading this way. Lisa felt her blood run cold. How many ships? Thousands, Carter replied. And Lisa, they're not trying to hide. They want us to see them coming. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe. Less. Lisa nodded grimly. We'll be ready. I know you will, Carter said. All of you. Human and alien together. The transmission ended, and Lisa looked out at the mixed patrol fleet. 6 months ago, they had been enemies, or at least strangers. Now they were allies preparing to face an unknown threat together. Commander, she said, signal the fleet. All ships are to return to base immediately. We have work to do. As the ships turned toward home, Lisa couldn't help but smile. The galaxy had been terrified when Earth's battleship came. Now they were, grateful. Because when the real monsters arrived from the darkness between galaxies, they would find a united force waiting for them, a force that combined the best of both worlds, the wisdom of peace and the strength of war. The invaders were about to learn what the galaxy had already discovered. Humanity had not come to conquer. They had come to protect, and they were very, very good at it.